With me now is Congressman Jared Moskowitz, a Democrat from Florida. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. A bump in the road, at least for now. How concerned are you with this apparent delay in voting on this hostage and ceasefire deal?
Well, thanks, John. Thanks for having me. Well, look, obviously serving in the House, I've seen many deals get brokered and votes get delayed. And so sometimes that happens when you're trying to get something very complicated passed. And the Israelis know they're making a deal with the devil in Hamas. And so I'm sure there's all sorts of concern that Hamas is trying to add new prisoners that aren't agreed to at the last moment, or whether Hamas is going to live up to their end of the deal, or taking pressure off of Hamas. We've seen the pressure on Hezbollah work. What we saw, obviously, the collapse in Syria. All of this is connected. We've seen Iran's inability to actually launch a real military campaign, which they've threatened to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. And so their capabilities are questioned. So all of these factors are going into how best to move forward in the region and in Gaza, the future of Gaza. The most important thing, as you know, is getting these hostages home. So I'm happy with the deal. I give President Biden and President Trump credit. They both deserve credit. Both their teams worked on this. But I'm sure Mike Waltz, who's the incoming national security advisor, is telling the Israelis to get this deal done. No president, Biden or Trump, want to come out and take credit for a deal and then have the deal unravel.
You say you give the incoming administration credit. You also give President Biden credit for getting this deal done, if it does in fact get done. Again, we're waiting on the Israeli cabinet. You give the Biden administration less credit, and I'm putting that euphemistically, for a decision that was made in the last few days vis-a-vis Cuba, taking them off the state sponsor of terror list.
Yeah, I mean, look, that to me is a total misstep at the end of the Biden administration. Okay, why didn't they do that a while ago? And the answer is they're doing it out the door. And so I think that should be obvious to everyone. Cuba does not belong off the terror watch list, off the designation. Okay, they harbor terrorists, they assist terrorists. All the evidence is there for that. And that's not even talking about human rights violations and what they do to political prisoners in Cuba. And so I think that's a mistake. My guess is that the incoming Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is going to put that back on. Or at least ask the incoming president to put that back on. We kind of saw that dance at the end of the Obama administration as well. From the political ramifications, coming from someone from Florida, we've stood with the Cuban community in South Florida, and I can tell you they are very against this move by the Biden administration. And from a political standpoint, Florida was already moving towards being a red state. I can tell you now this is waving the white flag of surrender. Florida will be a red state with this decision at the end of the Biden administration. And that's a problem for the electoral map for Democrats.
You are switching committees. People got used to watching you on the Oversight Committee, going after, in some cases, the chair, James Comer. Now you're moving to Judiciary. And you talk about Florida, politics in Florida. Pam Bondi, who will likely be the next Attorney General, is from Florida. What do you see as your biggest concerns vis-a-vis the incoming Attorney General?
Well, first, John, don't talk negatively about my friend, James Comer, okay? And just because I'm leaving Oversight doesn't mean I'm leaving James, I promise you. As far as Pam Bondi is concerned, obviously I know the incoming Attorney General. I was in the legislature when she was the Attorney General of Florida. When the shooting happened at my high school at Marjory Stoneman Douglas 6 years ago, she was the Attorney General at that time and was involved in not just the response, but when we put together the Marjory Stoneman Douglas School Safety Commission to investigate what went wrong that day, and then to work on legislation to make sure something like that never happened again. And so I know her fairly well. Obviously, we have many political disagreements, but she is very capable, and I think she'll wind up serving well as the Attorney General.
There have been rumors that you were being considered to be the FEMA administrator in the Trump administration. Can you 100% tell us this morning that's not going to happen?
Well, I mean, you can't accept something that's never been offered. And so, that was rumors and innuendo, and I think that was just people looking at the fact that I had worked for Ron DeSantis for 2.5 years as the Florida Director of Emergency Management. Look, John, the one thing I'll always say which is why I've not come out and just totally said no, no, no. I mean, look, I plan on staying in Congress running for re-election, but FEMA is a nonpartisan agency, and it should always remain that way, and so should disaster aid and disaster response. It should always be nonpartisan. We saw reports in Florida, right, that some people with Trump flags didn't get their aid. That should not be allowed to happen, okay? Everyone should be able to get their aid, and so for me, fighting for whether it's a Republican administration picking a Democrat or a Democrat administration picking a Republican, which has happened many times at FEMA and at emergency management agencies in different states across the country, I think is very important because politics has nothing to do with saving people's lives when disasters strike. And so, look, I'm not under consideration. I'm staying in Congress. But I do think every administration should not just look at their political party to lead FEMA. They should look at anybody who's qualified to lead that agency.
All right, Congressman Jared Moskowitz, thanks for being with us this morning. Appreciate your time. Kate?